Hi everyone, I'm Dan Kaplan, Executive Editor of SC Magazine. I'm sitting here with Francis deSouza, who is the Group President of Enterprise Products and Services at Symantec. Francis, thanks for coming in.
Thank you, Dan.
Symantec just conducted their State of Information Study 2012, and I was pretty amazed by some of the numbers, the amount of data that organizations are dealing with and having to manage, and the amount of money they're spending on it.
It's astounding. What we hear is that in aggregate, businesses are spending $1.1 trillion a year to manage the information that they have. That bubbles down to about just over $3,000, both for small businesses and for larger enterprises.
Well, define what managing means.
What managing is a number of things. One is making sure that that information is accessible by employees when they need it, making sure that information is backed up in the event that something happens to it, also making sure the information is secured and done so in a way that's compliant with the regulations that apply.
So when we're talking about, it appears that big organizations, small organizations, it doesn't really matter the size, are all spending a lot of money and dealing with this stuff, but they're not really getting the bang for their buck.
Absolutely. So if you're spending $1.1 trillion a year, about $3,000 per employee per year, what are you getting for it? So on the plus side, what we're hearing is companies are saying that having all that information does allow them to be more productive, to prescribe drugs more accurately, to deploy sales forces more accurately, to price their products more accurately. However, they're feeling overwhelmed. They're saying that they have a lot of information. They're not sure they are being efficient in how they're storing it. They feel also that they're not secure. We found 69% of businesses told us that they had lost company data in the last year.
So thinking like a layman, you know, when I hear about big data, I hear about how much data is proliferating, how much organizations are dealing with. I just think that like they could probably just get rid of a lot of that. And you mentioned that 42% of data within companies is duplicate data, meaning they have a lot of the same stuff. So why not just get rid of it and lower your costs and make everything better? That's
a great question. In fact, companies will tell you that they absolutely they know that almost half of their data is duplicate data. So 42% is the stat. And what our research actually shows from a technology perspective is in some cases it's 90% of the data being stored is duplicate data. The core question is, well, which half is it? Which part of your data is duplicate, which part of your data is junk mail and newsletters, and which part includes the important information assets that you can't delete. And so being intelligent in classifying that information is hard.
Mm-hmm. Tell me specifically how security plays into all this. You know, we're talking about attacks getting more sophisticated, not just from the traditional criminal set, but the nation staters now are, you know, a lot of these attacks have become publicized. We're learning about how a lot of them are going down. So how does, you know, a lot of companies are really worried about keeping their data secure. That's got to cost money, and that's got to play into that big number.
Absolutely. There are a couple of big changes happening in the IT security landscape. The first change, as you pointed out, is that the bad actors, the people driving the attacks have changed. It used to be hackers, now it's more organized criminals, and in some cases it's groups associated with nation states. So much more organized, much more sophisticated attackers, still driven sometimes by profit motives, sometimes by espionage. The other thing that's changed is that the targets of the attacks have changed from being infrastructure. They're not trying to take your network down to more information. They're trying to steal your information assets. And so from a security perspective, there's a really big pivot happening where people are realizing that it's not enough to protect their network. They really have to understand what are their most important information assets and secure those.
So it needs a culture shift, less focus on the infrastructure, more focus on the data itself. But I've been hearing about that for a few years right now. How come there hasn't been much development?
The big challenges between sort of where we are today and where we need to get to is for companies just really having that information focus and again getting intelligent around what it is they have and doing that consistently across the enterprise. So being able to discriminate between their important information assets and the other 95% of the information that they have. And then be able to have the right tools to treat them differently from a backup perspective, from a security perspective, from a compliance perspective. And so part of it is the culture change in companies, and part of it is the right tools being available to allow you to do that.
Yeah, and let's just talk about you know, the state of the network today. I mean, the perimeter is essentially gone. There's endpoints everywhere. Everyone's got a mobile device. There's applications galore. I would imagine getting a handle on all the information, being that it's in all these disparate places is quite the challenge.
Absolutely, especially if your technology focus before was very infrastructure focused, where you were protecting servers or you were protecting an application like Exchange, because as you pointed out, information can live in Exchange inboxes, but it can also live in file shares, it can live in a cloud-based service, and so your information focus has to be across infrastructure. And the big change we talk about is really putting the I back in IT. It's really about being intelligent about your information and less focus on infrastructure and technology.
So give a couple bullet points for tips. I mean, do the security folks need to connect more with the C-level suite in order to make this happen and be more impressive?
Yeah, the first connection is between the IT and the security folks and the business owners in the C-level suite to understand the short list of information assets that are the most important information assets in a company. Our research shows that businesses are saying that on average 49% of their business's value comes from their information asset. And so get a handle on what is that short list. Is it design docs, source code, customer lists, and then get a handle on how is that information treated. How is it secured? How is it backed up? How is it made available and accessible to your employees? So first conversation, what are our most important information assets and how are they treated?
I also would imagine that organizations are in a constant sort of tug of war between making the data accessible to their employees and also protecting it.
Absolutely. You listen to IT departments today and they'll tell you they feel there's a war that they're facing between productivity, so making information available all the time to their employees and to their customers, and protection, making sure it's secure. They feel they can choose to either put walls around the information and protect it or make it available but not do both. And of course we know that's a false choice. The reality is companies need to do both.
Okay, Francis deSouza, Group President of Enterprise Products and Services at Symantec. Thanks for coming in and joining us today.
Thank you, Dan.